Hey guys, welcome my channel.
Hi everyone, it's Jung here for Hip Kit Club. Today I'm sharing 3 cards that I made using the July 2019 Hip Kits. I was challenged to create monochromatic cards and to include stitching. I went ahead and made some A2 size card bases off camera with the cardstock from the kit. And these are the pattern papers that I will be using on my cards. There's some Webster's Pages. The pink one was Echo Park. There's some Pink Fresh Studio, and the yellow one is Bella Boulevard. So my first card, I'm using yellow as my color, and I decided I wanted to try that weaving technique. So I trimmed down some pieces of pattern paper. The yellow one, front and back, was Bella Boulevard, and I cut the solid pieces from this Webster's Pages paper. And I'm just going to try that weaving technique on the card, and I'm going to use a little bit of roller dot adhesive and just add it to the top of the vertical strips. That way I leave the bottom open. Okay, since the bottom is open, I'm able to weave in the horizontal strips through the bottom. And you just go over one strip, under another, over and under, and that's how you get that effect. So for the yellow card, I kept with yellows, light oranges, and in the end, you'll see there's a tiny bit of green, but overall, I think it's a very monochromatic card. At this point, I remembered that I had to have some stitching on this card, and so I don't know if you can tell from the video, but on the solid colored paper strips, I went ahead and added a straight stitch down the middle. And I like how that looks. It gives it a little bit of texture, so I like that I had to add the stitching. Okay, so I went ahead and attached some liquid glue towards the top half of the vertical pattern paper strips. And now I'm just going to do the same towards the right side for the horizontal paper strips. And I wanted it to look super straight and lined up, so I'm using my ruler. Okay, so once all the pattern paper strips are glued in place, I'm going to trim off the excess. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of extra liquid glue where I think it might need it, especially where they overlap each other. And then I'm pretty much done with this weaving technique. Now all I have to do is try and decide how I'm going to embellish the card. And I'm just kind of looking through the embellishments from the kits to see what would go good. I have that One Canoe 2 embellishment sitting to the left of the card. I pulled out a bunch of Pink Fresh Studio items, and I really couldn't decide what I wanted to do, so I end up setting the embellishments aside. I kind of didn't like how the pattern paper weaving was looking just flat on the card base, so I decided that I needed to mat this onto a different card base, and so I was trying to decide whether I want to mat it on some more yellow cardstock, some white cardstock, or that orange card base, and I eventually picked the orange card base to go with the orange paper strips. So I trimmed down that cardstock panel piece to fit on the orange cardstock, and then I had to trim down some of the pattern paper pieces as well. And now I'm going back to embellishments. I'm trying to look through this Hip Kit Club exclusive floral embellishment pack, and I was trying to decide on how I can embellish this card. I decided to go with this floral piece. I think it's delicate enough to add to the background weaving without taking away from it. And then I need to find a sentiment piece for the card. While I love that package of Pink Fresh Studio words right there in the upper right hand corner, they were just much too big for this card, so I pulled out the smaller puffy stickers from Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm going to use that little green puffy word. It says incredible, and I think I like how that looks, but I couldn't decide, so I decided to just set it aside and work on my next card. Okay, so for my next card, I decided I wanted it to be pink, and I fussy cut that little bird from that Webster's Pages pattern paper, and I also trim down a piece of that pink and white stripe pattern paper that is Echo Park, and I'm going to distress it just a little bit. And then I also cut out a tag from the Pink Fresh Studio paper that you see there. I'm going to end up adding some foam strips to the back of that stripe pattern paper, and I'm going to add some foam strips to the back of this tag as well. But before I do, I wanted to add on to the watercolory look of this tag. And so I'm going to add a little bit of ink splatters. I'm using some of the pink magical powders that we've gotten in previous color kits. And I know I mentioned this before, but that's the beauty of getting color kits. They will last you for months, if not years, especially these magical powders. You saw that I used the tiniest amount, and I still got this bold color. I like the look of teeny tiny splatters, especially on such a small tag like this, so I use a small brush, but sometimes I like to add in bigger dots just for that contrast, and so I just kind of paint them in. Alright, so now I am ready to start putting things together. I'm going to add the foam tape to the back of the striped pattern paper and adhere it to my pink card base. And this is just fun foam that you get in the craft section. This is the fun foam that has adhesive on one side of it, and so I just have to add double-sided tape on the other side. I forgot to mention a while ago, but I used a metal die for the tag. Now, if you don't have metal dies, you can totally just use another tag that you have, just trace it and hand cut it. But I have a set of metal tags in my collection, so I used it. And I'm going to be using a piece of twine from my stash as well, and I'm going to tie a bow. And again, I'll be using this fun foam and some double-sided tape to elevate the tag. I really like the soft look of this card so far, especially with that cute little bird. And so I decided I would add some of the black and white flowers that I fussy cut from this Pink Fresh Studio paper. It doesn't add any other colors, so it will definitely fit in with the monochromatic theme. And I'm going to use some thin foam squares to add just a little bit more dimension on this one. I'm just going to add the foam squares to the center of the fussy cut flower because I want the ends, the leaves essentially, to kind of stick up even more. I have some thicker foam dots in my collection, and I'm going to use that for the bird because I want it to stick up higher than the flowers. Okay, so I know I needed a sentiment for this card as well, so I went back to the puffy stickers from Pink Fresh Studio and I chose a couple of word stickers. This one says, "Be brave," and then this one, I believe it says, "Do it for you." And this card is done for now, but you'll see that here in a second. For my next card, I decided to use the purple tones. I have a purple card base. That pattern paper that looks like tiles is Pink Fresh Studio, and then this pattern paper that I die cut the tag from is also Pink Fresh Studio. I went ahead and used fun foam to attach the pattern paper to the card base. I stitched my tag off camera and I added fun foam to the back of this as well. And I went back to my pink card and I stitched on the tag on that one as well. I carefully peeled it up because I had forgotten that we were supposed to do stitching on these cards. So I carefully peeled it up, stitched around it, and then used fun foam again to attach it back onto the card. And thankfully, nothing was messed up. So back to the purple card. These are some purple ephemera pieces that I picked out from the Hip Kit Club exclusive. I pulled them out from both of the ephemera packs. Now I'm just going through some of the Pink Fresh Studio puffy stickers to find more purple items, especially a sentiment. And that flag, I believe it says "Laugh More." So sometimes when you go monochromatic, even though you use different tones, it looks a little flat. See, like I added that flower piece there. But once you add in just a tiny hint of color like that pink in that flower, it just brightens up a little bit. But I definitely feel like I still kept with the monochromatic theme. I think I'm ready to start gluing things down, so I'm going to attach my tag. I'm going to add a piece of twine and tie a little bow just like the last card. Next, I'm going to be using my T-square ruler to line up my sentiment. I decided to line up my sentiment with the card base and not the tag. You see my tag is kind of tilted there a little bit, so I'm going to use the edge of my card base. I'm going to start attaching my ephemera cluster here. Now, my cards are pretty clean and simple, but the key to making clean and simple cards look nice is to create texture and depth and dimension. And I have different textures going on. I have the paper, I have the twine, the sewing on the stitching, and I also have that extra texture of the puffy stickers. And I'm going to also add dimension by using liquid glue to attach some pieces. I'll use foam stickers for the other pieces. And so I believe that it creates just enough interest without looking a little too busy. So off camera, I added a couple more things to this card. I added 2 tiny purple flowers and a purple heart. Back to my yellow card, I was inspired by the pink and purple card and decided I wanted this card to have a tag as well. So I just die cut a tag straight from the yellow card piece that I had done the pattern paper weaving on. I didn't want to waste it. And so I went ahead and die cut a tag from it. And then I will decide what background paper would look good with this tag. That orange plaid I had decided on was a little bit too busy, so now I think I'm going to choose a little section from this Pink Fresh Studio paper. Okay, so I trimmed that piece down, and just like with the other cards, I'm going to attach it with fun foam, which I've already done. And now I'm going to add some more fun foam to the back of this tag. I'm going to use the flower that I had picked out earlier, and I'm going to attach it using foam squares. I will go ahead and use that same Pink Fresh Studio Puffy Sticker Incredible Sentiment that I had picked out earlier. And then off camera, I will add 2 little orange flowers from the Hip Kit Club exclusive ephemera and tie a bow with twine. To finish off my cards and add a little bit more interest, I'm just going to be adding some Nuvo crystal drops. They're like clear glue with glitter in it, and hopefully you'll be able to see that in the photos. I really love how my 3 cards turned out so cohesive. I hope you do too. I hope you were inspired to use your scrapbook supplies to make cards as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Here's a little close-up. I will leave all the links in the info bar below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bestie, bestie, by doing a biscuit this boat. Down in the wind and wash the spider out. Down
Came
the sun and drying out the cave. And the bestie, bestie, by doing a biscuit this boat.